Welcome in, y'all. Today we are covering the end of an era, the end of Harlem, the last two episodes of the series finale. We are Black Girls Talking TV, and we are here to bring the group chat to life and discuss all of your favorite TV shows. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification button so you don't miss out on any of the recaps. I am Victoria. I am a psychologist in New York and Illinois.
Hey y'all, I'm Chi Chi. I'm a marriage and family therapist. I'm based in London with a virtual presence in Virginia.
Hi, I'm Kamaria. I am an attorney and a pop culture writer. So let's get into it. We're discussing episodes 5 and 6. Camille and Ian. How do we like them ending up together? Do we like it? Do we not? What were your feelings about it? Not
I
the
loved
hearts.
it. Oh, that was so
Actually,
cute. I loved it.
cute.
I mean, I think we kind of predicted that was the direction they were going to go, but to not make Ian the bad guy, they were going to have what was her name?
Portia, you called
Portia.
it.
Portia. They
You
were gonna
called
have
it.
Portia step away. And I just kind of felt it last episode where I was like, Portia, you gotta be feeling uncomfortable in this situation, especially since it's been 8 months and you have not gotten pregnant. Um, I don't know. I was happy. I was happy that they got together. I was also happy for Portia so she wouldn't forever be feeling like she's coming second in this situation. She was spot
Right.
on with that. She deserves to be like, thought of first, loved, all of these things. Um, yeah, I loved when they started to make their rekindle and they were like, he was feeling the baby bump. And I was like, oh. But I will say, old Ian popped out because, Camille was trying to be like, no, no. He was like, what's wrong? Why are you having amnesia? Like you didn't forgot about Portia.
Right. And not you being over there at 3 in the morning. We didn't know what time it was when everything was going down.
Yeah. I feel like that moment, I promise you, like when I said before, I was like, I'll get on board with an Ian and Camille ending if they make me feel it. They made me feel it in that moment because I was like,
Definitely felt it.
I actually wanted him to go. I was like, okay, this is all right. Move forward. I know it's wrong. I know it's wrong, but it's like y'all together, be together. But I am glad that they didn't do it because I think it would have tainted their reunion too
Mhm.
much and it would have soured it a little bit. So I like that they didn't do it, but that was a good moment. Like that was well done. The writers wrote that well. The acting was, very I felt that. I was like, oh my God, do it. And they didn't, but I was
Yeah, I
happy for
was very excited. I was like just super giddy, kicking my feet as I was watching it. Because I wasn't a fan. I was like, let this shit be over. I'm done with this saga for sure. But it's something about a black man being excited to be a father and being
Mhm.
there. And I feel like when you get in those moments where you're preparing and
Mhm.
you're creating life together, it's hard not to like lean back in
Yeah.
and fall in and imagine what it's like for your family to be together. And it's not like there were
Mhm.
any circumstances that was keeping that from happening, right? Like the only reason why they broke up was because Camille was unsure if she wanted children. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
so now that everything kind of just slapped him in the face, it's like, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was very proud of Portia. I was waiting for it. I was like, girl,
Yeah.
this is not about to be a fairy tale life for you.
Mhm.
Sitting here while this man, especially with an infant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was glad to see the conversations this time because we had not
Yeah.
really seen any of them at
Right,
all.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
like most people didn't even think she knew at a certain point or whatever.
right.
But
I still
I,
didn't
I
know what to do.
yeah. No, when
Even
she
to
was at
the
the wedding,
cake.
yeah, the cake.
Yeah, the
But I was
cake.
like, I could tell that that was like they were foreshadowing something because they were doing that little arguing piece. But my thing was like when they had him at the cake at the wedding, like why was there beef here? Like why were you like no, she shouldn't be here? Like I thought that was a little catty on the
Yeah, I
Camille
was
and
trying to figure out what happened. And everybody's like, she
Yeah.
shouldn't be here. And I'm sitting here like, why wouldn't she be there? I would have
yeah.
Yeah.
expected her to be there.
I I would have liked to have seen a better relationship between Camilla and Portia. I actually think someone popped into our comments and was commenting on like the fact that they haven't had a conversation was because like Camille is still in love with Anne, which is true.
Mhm.
But I would have liked to seen like a better relationship where like she could have showed up and brought the cake and said, "I'm so happy for you, Camille, you look amazing, all this stuff." Um, Yeah, I guess maybe they hadn't arrived there yet. Maybe they would have, but I feel like 9 months is a long time where y'all should have been had some type of conversation with the understanding that could like Portia and Ian are about to have kids possibly.
I don't think
Yeah.
Ian made. I'm gonna assume, based on who
Mhm.
Ian is and his patterns of behavior, that he was not communicative enough to
Yeah.
make that happen, right? In a very like synchronized and mature way. Like up
Mhm.
until what we saw, like 6 months, whatever time frame it was, he was still being secretive and not 100% upfront about things, even with Camille. So it's like I'm not sure how that could have gone over in a smooth way without Ian recognizing his position and place in that conversation and making sure there's a healthy dynamic between Camille and
Mhm.
Portia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that he was necessary, but I do think they could have come to that and brought him along if the two of them recognize that this is important, because I was a little surprised at the baby shower about why it was like just about Camille, cuz like a lot of times it's the mom and the dad, and so it's like why isn't it
Yeah.
like you guys are having a baby, your people come and your people are celebrating both of you. That's the
Yeah.
only thing. Like he did interrupt her baby speech at the shower,
Yeah.
and I was like, that's a little bit much. But I do think that there was something missing, like in terms of that element. 'Cause I felt like all of that kind of confused me.
I
Yeah.
think though that was really because like Quinn was throwing it, right? So this was coming from Camille's right like side of things
Mhm.
and like Quinn is organizing all these things with the understanding that Camille is feeling very lonely and
Yeah.
like she was feeling alone in this entire process and everything she's been wanting or would have imagined while having a child, she's not getting because Ian is
Mhm.
with another woman. And so
Mhm.
Yeah.
I Quinn being the friend that she is, right? Like she is the fixer friend. Like I think she really
Mhm.
wanted to just show up for Camille. And I
And
think
not,
she
yeah.
wanted, yeah, I think she wanted the moment to remind Camille that like she has community. I know you feel
Mhm.
alone and like this has been a lonely
Mhm.
process for you, but look at all of these people who show up for you and will continue to show up for you. And now
Mhm.
the baby Harlem.
Yeah, I knew they were going to
Yeah.
name the baby Harlem. I knew it. I knew it. That she was
Really?
right. I knew that they were going to name the baby Harlem. I was like, okay, that is like a nice period at the end of the whole
Yeah.
series. Did you all feel like the baby shower was like so emotional? Like I cried. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just a crier. I cried on various episodes of this season, actually.
Uh-huh.
But was it emotional for
Yeah, it
you?
was
Yeah.
emotional. I loved Quinn's speech where she had each stand up if you knew Camille from, NYU and Columbia and Harlem. I thought that was really, really beautiful. I also loved how they like weaved in her mother, right? Because it was like, oh, we knew she was feeling like, oh, is my mother gonna be a part of it? Like our relationship isn't the best. So I loved how her mother showed up, how her supervisor, right, Whoopi, came in and
Yeah.
like brought like the quilt, the anthropology quilt, which I thought was really, really beautiful. That was a lovely scene. It was a really beautiful scene to
Very
like
beautiful.
see how people were like, okay, we're here for you, Camille. Like whether you and Aaron are gonna be together or not, like you have community, you have people that are gonna like show up for you, you and your baby.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
When Dr. Pruitt brought in the blanket and she showed up, the first thing I thought was like, this is what is so special about the Black community, right? Like
Mhm.
you have I feel like Dr. Pruitt represented like another mother figure for Camille in a sense.
Mhm.
Yes, she was like a professional mentor, but when she brought the blanket, it's like, you know, when you have these like whether it's a secondary mother, secondary father, it's like they always just know like the right moment to just like show up and give you what you need.
Mhm.
And I felt like that was so beautiful and so like representative of what is so lovely about the Black community and just how we stick together no matter what. um
Yeah.
and tough love comes in different forms,
Mhm.
but it's always with love. So
Yeah, no, I
Mhm.
like them wrapping Dr. Pruitt's character, like the arc of her character, because I'm like, she in the beginning, I was like, most of the Black friends I know, they're very supportive, and she was like, it didn't feel like she was, but
yeah.
now, as they transitioned, it's like she is what my experience is what HBCU professors. I mean, she ain't at HBCU, but at least that's been my experience. And even when I went to a PWI for law school, like the professors there were very much like, you know, we're trying to support you, Black women. Like, where are you at? You know, what do you need? We're trying to
Mhm.
support you. So I'm gonna mention one comment that came up in our group chat. So this is shout out to everyone who joined the group chat. I think we had like 15 or I don't know.
Yeah, 15, 16, and it's very
Yeah,
active.
yeah, it's very active. So I enjoy that. It's just the beginning. Like that was like our first day. And so I'm excited for the other chats once we move into those other shows. But somebody made a comment about like um us being triggered by Ian and like Ian being a basic like normal guy who wasn't very emotionally intelligent, but you know was had good heart, yada yada yada. And I was like, is that a real? I mean, is that something that like we are kind of overlooking like when we interact with men like Ian, it's like they have a good solid base center, but they don't know how to do all these other things that really frustrate us, like because that's how I feel a lot of times. It's like, oh, can we get with the emotional, you know, intelligence? Can we get, you know, are we being a little too hard on some of these guys? Because like I'm an Ian fan now, but I didn't like him in the beginning of the series, and I wonder what your thoughts are on that. Like it was something that came out of the chat, but I'm just wondering, you know, what you all feel about, you know, that sort of question.
You know, maybe like 3 weeks ago, I would have answered this question and I would have said, "No, they just need to rise to the occasion," right? Like, we're all evolving, and it's time to, like, put in the work to evolve. But then I listened to this podcast the other day, I can't even remember the name of it, but they were just talking about, like, just giving our men a little bit of grace, and I do feel like we give them a lot of grace. But the reality is they are at a deficit when it comes to just emotional like fitness, right? Like this emotional intelligence, being aware of their own emotions, having a certain level of awareness of other people's emotions. Like they haven't been reared in that way. I think it's changing. I think the like kids now, the boys are going to be different, or you know, they're going to have more of this emotional fitness. But the men our age, no, right? I think one thing I did like about Ian is that, you know, after he did act a mess, he did come back and acknowledge and give a sincere apology. And I think that for the most part, and I think that step is important. You know, each person is going to have, you know, the range, the tolerance, how much they can take, right? Okay, I can deal with a guy at this level, or I can deal with a guy at this level. I don't think that we should be letting them off the hook in the sense of like, oh, you should have no type of emotional intelligence. But I do think sometimes we may have to just manage that expectation and allow them to grow within the relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I have a friend who she's always saying like, this is the basics, you know, like this is stuff that shouldn't have to be explained, like, you know, the bar is in hell. Um when stuff like this happens and like we're excited and but the thing is like we get excited because it doesn't happen that often, right? Like
Mhm.
and so it's the reality of dating and it is the reality of like the male experience and how they show up in relationships. So
Mhm.
although it may seem like these are things that they should just know and
Yeah.
like get with it, rise to the occasion, we get excited because it doesn't happen. And so maybe this is a case for like we do need to alter our expectations because there would be no reason to be excited for what we feel is basic and common knowledge and common sense if it
Yeah.
just showed up wrapped
Yeah.
in a nice package in a bow. And it often doesn't.
And I think, like, I think as women, we have to acknowledge that there are areas where we have deficits too, right? And we're
Yeah.
also evolving and growing. Emotional, I mean, not every woman has a certain level of emotional intelligence, right? And so
Mhm.
I think just having grace, you know, for the person that you're with, and I don't think there's anything wrong with getting excited, right? If you're dating a guy and he's showing up with like maybe the way that Ian was showing up, you should be excited, right? Like,
Right.
there's not every guy that you're meeting is like that. And it's okay to acknowledge like, wow, like to acknowledge someone's growth. right? Like acting like it's not there or kind of like shaming them for well, this is basic, you should have this. I'm like, that's not going to produce more growth, right? Like people are going to then feel uncomfortable to take risks, be vulnerable because they're not sure how you're going to really respond. Yeah. I mean, to us, it is basic, right? Because in our groups is how we naturally talk and interact with people and all of that. But not all men have people they can talk to, right? They don't have people they can call at 2 a.m. in the morning and share their feelings and all this stuff. So when they get in these, very vulnerable relationships with women, it is a skill that has to be built. It just doesn't come naturally.
Yes.
And it's like a lot of times that relationship is where they're building it, to be
Yes.
honest. You know what I'm saying? And but it's a balance to it, because I like, one of the things I liked about, and I guess whenever we get to Ty, we'll discuss it a little bit further, but I liked Portia and what's her girlfriend?
Dang it, we
I don't
never
know
know
what
her.
her name is.
I'm like, that girl, we need to put some respect on her name.
Right.
Was
She did a hell of a good job in her
She
role.
did. She
Everybody
did.
needs to do what she did.
Let me Google her
Have
name
the
real
I
quick.
boundaries
know, that's
Hold
what
on.
I'm trying to do right now.
Her
Eva.
name is Gail Bean, but she went by Eva in
in the show.
the show.
The show.
Okay. Yeah. So the thing I really liked about like Eva and Portia's characters were that they were how we should be as women, like, holding firm to their boundaries and
Yeah.
things like that. And so I think there is a balance when we have this conversation about like should we be as triggered as we are sometimes by men showing up and not being emotionally available, whatever. And then there's also your boundaries, you know what I mean? Like there's also your standards. And it's hard to kind of navigate both because, it's a case by case situation, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
and it's like some things are a little worse than other things. So anyway, I liked Ian. I liked his growth. And I just thought that was a very kind of funny moment to pull from the chat that, like, is are we being triggered for unnecessarily, because this is just like maybe who they are, and maybe not giving some of the good core of a man credit for like that goodness.
So, y'all, what are your thoughts on Quinn saying no to Seth's situation?
Clap, 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 clap,
Round of
clap, clap.
applause. Claudia make that.
Because yes. And for a second I thought they were gonna take us along this journey.
I
I was
was
like,
like, not all this girl Quinny done did to end up in this, baby.
Right.
She
I
started
was
getting all of the things she knows about herself, all of the things that she became confident in about herself. I was like, why are you even entertaining this conversation? The girl
Yeah.
pulling up chlamydia results and stuff.
oh yeah.
I mean, that was
that
a good shout out to sexual health, though. But
Yeah,
I was just,
no, yeah, they
yeah.
finally looped that in. They looped that in.
yeah,
That was
Yeah.
us, y'all. They listened to us and they went back
they
in.
did.
It's good to like, if I think it's a good representation of like, this is what the ethical non-monogamy polygamous community can look like at
Yeah,
its best, right?
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
So no, I don't have any. I thought that was cool to have her do that, to be
Yeah.
honest. However, I just feel like I love that they kept Quinn grounded. It's like, just because they like it don't mean that you gotta like it. You know what I'm saying? Just
Mhm.
because if you have your standards, like, stand firm on those things. Like a lot of times, anybody could talk you into anything. You know what I mean? Especially these men,
Mhm.
they got, some of them got the gift of gab. Like they
yeah.
They
can make you
do.
flip your whole head around, make
I
you
was
start.
almost convinced. Okay,
Oh, see, look at you here.
I
Let me
was.
show you
You
your
want
welcome.
this? You want this? You want this? You want this apartment? You like this view? Because I can buy it right now. Put
Honey,
your name on it.
when he said that, I said, you know what? I might have to entertain this. I
Goodness.
half-heartedly wanted her to go that way. I really did. Like
Oh
half of
my
my heart.
God, you
Yes.
guys.
It's the
We
toxic in
clearly
me. Okay.
fell prey to the gift of the gab, honey, because I was like, you ain't got to do it forever.
That's why I said, but you
No.
can't get some property out of it. And then I was like, well, she's bisexual, so she can get.
Right.
No,
She can
I think
she can get the
this
pussy
this this is what I think.
in the best of
Like,
both worlds.
I girl, I this is why. This is why. It's like we have to be firm, because like ultimately it would have been a self. It would be that's just what self abandonment looks like. You know what I'm saying? Not like you
Yeah.
guys. I'm not
Yes.
No.
not
No,
saying
no,
you
no,
guys.
but
I'm
It
you're
saying
right. It
would. It
is.
would
if
definitely would for
Quinn
Quinn. Yes.
if
Yeah,
Quinn had
yeah.
gone that route, that's what self abandonment looks like. It's like flipping your whole world around to
Mhm.
Yeah.
pick up a new dream that someone else is telling you just so you could have access to the piece that you want from them. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's
Right.
like she wants the piece of the family, she wants the piece of him, but she doesn't want all these other things. And it's like
Mhm.
she's abandoning that true desire to not have all these other things
Mhm.
just to be with him. And I think that
Yeah.
is what self abandonment looks like. And so I really am glad she stood to her guns or whatever. I
Mhm.
also like that 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 they kind of did that detour like and tricked us a little bit, and it wasn't just like we thought I thought for a second she was
Yes.
gonna go that
Yeah.
route,
Mhm.
and that created a little drama, for the moment. So I
Yeah.
like that for the writers to have done that. So.
Yeah. I mean, it showed that she was open-minded in a way, like, okay, let me see. And then when she
Yeah.
got there and then she was like, oh no, why am I even acting like this is me? Right? Like, I
Yeah.
gotta go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What are y'all thoughts about like Isabel showing up? I was actually kind of excited because that was my favorite relationship for Quinn out of Harlem. What, Victoria?
Yeah.
I wasn't feeling it. I was not feeling
Really?
it. Mm.
I mean, at first I was like, when I saw her, I was like, "Oh, look! When you find yourself and you follow your path, your people reconnect with you." But then I was like, "Hold up! Wasn't she the one, that broke her heart,
Yes, broke her heart. Mm-mm.
sent her into the deep depression?"
That's why
Like,
I want an intentional man or woman, since she's bisexual, to show up for Quinn. I was not feeling Isabella wrapping around at the end because she broke Quinn's heart.
She
Quinn
did.
deserves somebody intentional. I think I realized at the baby shower and then again at Angie's show, Quinn she picks up her friends so
Yeah.
mhm,
well. She
mhm,
shows up as an amazing person despite all the relationship trauma she has been through. And you think
mhm,
Mhm.
about how like her mother was towards her,
mhm,
all of these men like not being serious about her, and she still
Mhm.
finds a way to make the people she loves to feel so special, so seen, and so
mhm,
heard. Right? I thought at
Yeah.
Angie's scene they were all gonna go back there, but when they just showed Quinn going
mhm,
back there, I was like, that is because Quinn is that friend. Quinn is
mhm,
gonna
Mhm.
remind you who the fuck you are. You know what I'm saying? And so she
Yeah.
deserves somebody who's going to remind her who she
mhm,
is and stand
mhm.
Mhm.
firm in like promoting Quinn's identity and being a good person towards her. So I'm not with we're not circling the block on none of these people.
But
Okay.
you know what? Now my brain has just shifted my perspective.
Mhm.
Not from what you said, but just as I was thinking about it, I'm like, Quinn was not healed at that time because I was thinking about like Quinn is what you said. Quinn is a giver,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and I think she's a giver because an overgiver at times because of her issues, and I think that like when she was in the relationship with Isabella, she was over like giving. She wasn't
Yeah.
balanced. And maybe a balanced version of her could have connected with Isabella. But I feel like I still don't like Isabella for her because I feel like Isabella saw that and instead of being like, look, there's a talking with her and saying
Mhm.
you're kind of trying to help highlight be a mirror for her, she just walked away, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
She wasn't someone who kind of said like, "Hey, you have a lot to offer, and you're investing a lot early in me, and I
Yeah.
think that has something to do with you and how you may need to work out some things. And
Yeah.
so I really care about you, but I'm gonna have to. I want to step back a little bit, give you the room to do that work, and then I'm not closing the door for us. But I think right now, she could have been like that
Yeah.
person, and I hold that mirror to her, but she just was like, I gotta go. So I still don't like her. I flip back to not like her. I flip back.
I wanted Quinn to have someone, right? And I hate that they did not weave in a relationship for her because I feel like that's a like Quinn's character is quite common to have women that are like givers, over givers, like they really over function in relationships. They showing up for everyone. And so I would have loved to have seen them like really write in a beautiful love story for her. But I did like her relationship with Isabel. What was her name? Isabella,
It's
right? But I will say the way that she dipped out, she could have done better, right? Like
Yeah.
that was not okay. But I do think she felt overwhelmed by, like you said, how much Quinn was investing so quickly. Um, but yeah, I mean, who knows, right? They both met at the clinic. I mean, maybe it was just because if they're gonna get together anyway, they're gonna have to do some type of like in vitro regardless, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe they were just trying to add that in, but I feel like they just didn't. They focused a lot on Quinn healing,
Mhm.
and less about her kind of a love story for her.
Yeah, yeah. Which I mean kind of makes sense because she was so male centered in the
Yeah.
first two seasons.
Yeah.
I actually did not like them weaving in the idea of her having a child alone and having a sperm donor because she has been so clear about what she wants in love even when she wasn't the healthiest version of herself. And so I
Mhm.
just felt like why can't she have what she wants? You know, like why can't she have that fairy tale ending? Kind of going back to what Chichi you said in our first recap episode, right? Like give us the fairy tale ending. Like why why she gotta still struggle after all that she done been
Mhm.
through? She done did the work. Let somebody show up for her who can give her
Mhm.
exactly what she wants. And if it is with the women, then of course she's gonna have to go through this process.
Mhm.
But her going through it alone after
Mhm.
all of that, come on, y'all. We
Yeah,
can't
but
do
I
it.
think she's gonna go through with this. I think that's the implication because they're, you
Yeah.
know what I mean, like that her and Isabella like
Yeah.
have a happily ever after or whatever. But I actually liked it a little bit, but I also I I do get the point about like not making everything be like realistic. Because I feel like I like that they could bring options in and
Yeah.
share that women don't have to wait. You know, they don't have to if they're feeling like this is what I want and they're not finding the partner. You can have a child without the partner, but I
Mhm.
do think that it could be put a little bit more normalized for
Yeah.
like television and normalized for like a way to get to the fairy tale ending. And so I feel like that like reshaping what a fairy tale ending looks like
Yeah.
could be could affect just how as a society we view what the fairy tale ending looks like. You know what I'm saying? Like by art
Yeah.
reshaping it. So I liked it, but yeah, I don't know. It's not the ideal version. I agree.
Yeah. It wasn't ideally how I would have liked for Quinn's story to end, but yeah, we need a little spinoff.
Alrighty, so on to Angie, my fave. Um, what are we thinking about the breakup?
I was happy.
You called it.
I was just happy. I just felt like he was gonna hold her back. Not you trying to like she's about to get a movie with Idris at that. But she's about to get a movie and you were talking about the wedding that you was all hesitant on having a big wedding anyway, calling her baby girl. Like, sir, I don't like to
Yes,
shame people for their insecurities because we all have them. But I'm like, you need to work on that one a bit. You
yes,
need to address that one a bit. I was happy when Angie went in there standing strong, put that ring down, said, "Hey, we're gonna be better off as individuals." I was very, very
right.
happy for yeah.
110%. I said, baby, when they did the whole picture scene, and he was still talking about showing up for me,
Oh.
huh?
It's like it got worse and worse.
It got worse
Mhm.
and worse. It was definitely giving. He wants somebody at the house with a
Yeah.
meal waiting for him when he gets home, the house clean, and you at home barefoot and pregnant,
Ah, yeah.
Mhm.
okay? Taking care of the family and nurturing him. I do wish, again, that they would have given us more about whatever his background is that is
Yeah.
pushing towards this. Um, but yeah, it was absolutely way too much. It was giving controlling vibes.
Mhm.
Next I'm sure it would have been what she's wearing. who she hanging out with. You
Yeah, so
know,
the
like it
wearing,
was
that was
Very.
coming. And it
yeah.
might have been the hair.
Right,
Like,
right. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and don't ever think you can speak for me and turn down no career opportunities.
Right.
yeah. Because
That
I
was
don't think
No.
wild.
I don't think she would have been wrong to move back the wedding. To be honest, like
Oh,
if she
no.
was getting married, I think that there's certain opportunities are like kind of once in a lifetime sort of opportunities,
Yeah.
and it's not like he's, especially in their situation where he has money, that they could like move things and take the hit on whatever they might have,
The
lost deposit
deposit.
or whatever.
Yeah.
But even for a normal wedding, something that's like a big opportunity like that,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if, I think it's wrong to move it, because you're not saying like I
I don't
don't
wanna
want to get
marry
married.
you.
Right.
You're
Yeah.
not, I'm like, you could have moved away now. You can be like,
Right.
let's move it up to May. I
And
love it.
Yeah.
they could have used a slower pace, quite honestly.
They could
Yeah,
have. They could have.
yes. So it's like the fact that he even just lack of partnership, making decisions for her without discussing it with her. It's like
Yeah.
all
That
across the board.
That was the running theme in their relationship is they didn't have a good partnership. Because I actually
Mhm.
think what that could have they could have came to a resolution, right? Like I think Angie didn't he they also didn't write this in, but she didn't fully understand why he was feeling the way that he was feeling. I don't think he fully understood why it was so important for her to focus on her career at this moment. I do think it's something that they could have moved through. But I think when you give an ultimatum like that, you make it difficult to move through a situation when you say either, we're doing the wedding then or we're not having it at all. Okay, come
Yeah.
on now. Cuz is that truly what you want? You just want your way, right? And I agree with you. There's some opportunities that like you grab them when they come up, and I do believe that if an opportunity had it came up for him, Angie would have 100% like, said, "Let's push back the wedding." I mean, even when she did the thing where she put it on the card, I mean, she really wanted that venue, but then she was able to like see his side and be like, you know
Right.
what? Yeah, we can do a smaller venue.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
The only thing I didn't understand is when she came in there talking about, I have supported you. When you come, we have to leave early from drinks and this and that. And I was like, Angie, when was you supporting him? You was focused on yourself, honey. And that's fine. Right. But you
Yeah.
were 100% focused on you. And this is to
Right.
me how you all even got to this space because he wasn't speaking up. You weren't asking, right? There were a lot, and like you could tell that he was really pushing for the wedding and then began to have this warped idea of what he wanted a wife to be, knowing that
Right.
Angie was never going to fit into that mold. And so I was like, you all were never talking. And now it's
Yeah.
gotten to this place where it's like, okay, bye, we're done with each other. We're going to let go of the wedding. We're going to let go of the relationship. And I thought, I mean, I was happy that she was firm around, I'm not going to let this opportunity go, but I would have liked to have seen more partnership, more of like, let's work things out. I feel like we live in a time where we don't actually see couples go through the work. And
Yeah.
sometimes you got to go through the work. Things aren't like always like going to go smoothly. And one of the things I've been learning is like, the Gottmans talk about, which are like relationship therapists, that like
Mhm.
69% of like conflict in relationship is not going to be resolved. That's high.
It's very high.
69% is not going to be resolved.
Yeah.
So like to me that means people you're not finding compromises, right? You're just beginning to understand someone. And I don't feel like they didn't really show that in their relationship. So that was the only bit that I was like I would have loved to have seen a little more nuance, and maybe a little bit of trying to work it out. Because I do think they could have worked through this bit. But yeah, that's my
Yeah.
thoughts.
I do think that's why these shows need like a more of like a mental health perspective in writing.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so that there is just more normalcy around like there's a struggle, but there's also a working out, right? And when you put the
Mhm.
work in, it can happen. But yeah, Angie definitely was not being a supportive partner. Like she didn't remember his deals and things like that. And it was very clear that although she was passionate about his career, he was too.
Mhm.
Um, but I do think the safety in supporting him wasn't necessarily there because it almost came up as like a I'm throwing it in your face, right? Like I'm successful. I had to work really hard for this. It's paying all the bills, and so it wasn't like a open
Yeah.
conversation per se. Even when things came up, it was like, I have to do this. I have to do this. No, not tonight because of this, right? Like it was never a like, oh my god, I'm so excited! Like I'm about to close this deal. Like I've been really wanting to do this. I've been working on this for so and so long. And so I do think if it was brought in a more lighthearted way, then
Mhm.
maybe, just maybe, there could have been more conversations in a supportive light for it. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I
yeah,
wonder why, like, I feel like they didn't like, both of them just brought complete opposite wrongs to the situation, if that makes
yeah,
sense. Like, they feel
Yeah.
they a lot of us can see his, wrongs, but, like, Angie, like you saying, she was not focused on him, and you really do have to be a partner.
It
Doesn't mean
wasn't.
that
Yeah.
it erases his wrong, and his wrong doesn't erase hers. It's just
right,
Yeah.
they were just not functioning, they were not
Yeah.
functioning, and
yeah,
all
Yeah.
she wrote. But you called that Chi Chi. You was like, I think she's gonna find fame and let him go.
yes,
I did want to say one thing about how like Angie's career, like at this point, we can see her trajectory is like it's flourishing. She's gonna move into this start, right? But I think it's a good point to note that like had she listened to Mike and had she dimmed her
yeah,
lights, had she like, been like, oh, maybe I won't, or had she not like fully firmly stepped forward into the role and followed her own gut, had her girls remind her, because even before Quinn in the before the show, there was Ty at the restaurant when she asked, she was like, "Is this like sort of like
Yeah.
that other show? Like, can you would?" And they built her back up. And so, if she had allowed someone else's thoughts to stop her, it would have moved her. She'd be stuck in a marriage with a man paying the bills, who she
Mhm.
doesn't like, and she would have been miserable. And so, it is. I
Yeah.
love that piece of like them showing her, following her, what spoke to her, and
Mhm.
the things that she want, the fruits of what she desired coming,
Mhm.
coming to her. She can harvest them now. And so I thought that was really good
Yeah.
yeah,
storyline for
definitely, definitely. I also like that they wrapped her mom back in at the end.
yes,
And
Yeah.
yes,
really, so I
yes.
was like, yes, wow, she
And
still deserved
Yeah.
more scene.
only other thing was Quinn, you mentioned it a little bit earlier, her being like that supportive friend. I just thought that was such a beautiful moment because, like, that's what we lean on our friends for. And she was just a
Mhm.
representation of that in that moment. And it's that important. You know what I mean? It's that important. It can be that quick that
Yeah.
someone can talk you back into your right mind. Like,
Right,
so
Mhm.
right.
love
Yeah,
that.
yeah, when she was
Yeah.
like, "I know you did not sleep on my couch, eat up all my food
All my food.
in 9 months." Yeah, that
Yeah, she
was
said you want to
like,
step out there and do what you were born to do, or whatever she
yeah.
said, do what you were made.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, like
Mhm.
call in the purpose.
Yeah,
Okay. So enjoyed
yeah,
that.
I did. That was a beautiful scene.
All right. So we're gonna round it out to Ty. Like, what are we thinking about Ty? And like she almost messed that up. Like,
Uh,
what were your thoughts?
when she pulled up in that taxi, and then I had like I felt like my stomach drop because I was like, "Oh, she not going in," and I was like, "Go in, Ty, just go in, just go in." I was like, like coaching her, like, "Just do it." And when she got back inside, I was like, "Dang it!" And then Eve seen her, and then she proceeded to lie. I was like,
yeah,
"Oh, this went from bad to worse." Like,
Yes, and she doubled down on the lie in her face in there. Like, I've had
yes,
people do that to me. Well, one person. One person I had one person do that to me. I'm like, "I know. With my own eyes, I saw what I saw."
mhm,
And they're
yes,
like, "I don't know what you think you know." And I'm like, I know what I saw. It's not even a whatever." And so I feel like when she said that line about like the ease of which you can lie to
lie
me,
to me, yes, I have a problem with that. I was like, "Oh,
yeah,
baby, that's a bar."
because
yeah, it
that's a sign of
was.
a habitual liar. That's and it's like
Okay?
It is.
after that, I remember my whole feelings didn't even they just evaporated because I
Yes,
understood I can never trust you.
you're
I
right.
can
Yeah.
never trust you. You lied
Yes,
to my face, and I called you a lie. You lied again.
again,
I was like, I was
Yeah.
having flashbacks. I was
yes,
like, she did that one. That's why I said she and Portia, they had the boundaries that most people need to have because
They did. They had the boundaries. Ty, I
yeah,
know. Had she came back and been like, "You know what? I was afraid. I actually showed up and then I left." There could have been some redemption. I mean, eventually, they found redemption, but I was like, "Not you lying again, but to her face."
Literally,
And
I
now she
say,
gotta
dang.
I know.
and it was messed up. That was like that's what that's
Mm,
messed up. That's a real lie. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
that's that was messed up.
It was. I mean, I understood her fear, because Ty's story with her family, I don't think she's ever gotten this serious since it, it's been a long time since she's gotten this serious with someone. So I did feel for her, but I wish that she would have just sent a text just saying, I'm actually terrified to like come in. Can we
Right.
maybe do like just, I can't do it. Can we try another
Honestly,
time? 'Cause in that,
Yeah.
I feel like Eve would have like, she would have understood that and been like, "You know what? Thank you for sharing that with me. Let's talk about it later and we'll go from there."
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
what she should have said it was at the beginning when it was introduced instead of the end. Super
yes, yeah,
excited to meet her parents. 'Cause at least then it just would have been a done deal. But I definitely was like, "Ty, you've had all of this growth, and now
Mhm.
you are just reverting back into your shell." I was like, "Don't
Yeah.
do it."
I would have liked them to have her make amends in a better way because I know it was like I guess it's nice for her to go and take the mom to the airport and have a talk with her, but I'm like, what if I was the mother? What could you say to me? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What could you have said to me that would convince me that maybe my daughter should give you another chance?
And propose,
And
And
okay?
propose.
propose.
Right.
I mean,
Yes.
not that okay for the hand in marriage.
Yeah. Because
Maybe the amends, but I wouldn't have been like, "Yeah, go ahead and get on one of these."
Yeah.
the one thing that I wrote it down is Robin Givens said the Ava's mama,
Come on.
accountability is a good thing, but it's not enough. But sometimes
Mhm.
it's not enough, something like that. And I thought that was so on point because that's like Ty was being like a dude. Like she was being like, when she pulled out that what is happening? Um and the mom saying accountability is a good thing. I hear that you're sitting here saying, taking accountability for it, but it's not just that. It's like
Mhm.
you have to have the skills to not lie. You have to have the skills to not be a
Yeah.
habitual liar. You have to face the vulnerability, the difficulty of whatever your lie is trying to protect you from. You have to face that and have the courage to face that and develop that muscle because it's not just I want to treat your daughter nice. You have to have the capacity to treat her
Right,
nice.
right.
Yeah.
So I like that quote. I thought that was very
Yeah.
cool. Like we need to do like some
It
quote
was.
on social media about. There was a couple quotes I loved on there.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
was these episodes.
they were. I my only concern about like Ty's relationship, and I know like they're getting ready to get married, but like this is a pattern with Ty, right? When
Yeah,
like she gets afraid, she just bolts or she tells you to leave, like there's some bolting, there's a flight in some way, right? And I'm like this continues to come up. I mean, of course her girl loves her, she's giving her the grace, and like her mom said, it's great accountability, she'll come back and take accountability, but sometimes it's not enough. Like you might run out of accountability like little coupons, okay? Like
right.
I don't know how many of those people have in their like her vote. um
Yeah.
yeah, that's my only concern is I'm like, Ty really may have to dig deep and work on that particular pattern because that can be damaging over time. Because it will
Yes,
it, it will erode away at the trust that you can have in the relationship. Like anytime we run into anything that gets a little hard or tough or scary and you run away, like then I feel like that person can be like begin to feel like, okay, well then I can't bring tough things to you, or I don't know if I can fully show up here. Like it can erode up the relationship. So I do feel like that's something like Ty is really going to have to work on because that pattern has come up a couple of times.
yeah. I don't think a lot of people sometimes are aware at like the frantic efforts they may have to avoid abandonment.
Yeah.
Um And so the proposal I felt was like almost a representation of that. It
Mhm.
was like, let me go full speed ahead so you know that I'm serious. And I
Yeah.
was not convinced that Ty was there. And I was not convinced that Eva deserves that version of Ty at that level to say,
Yeah.
yes, let's get married. Because
Yeah.
Mhm.
Eva was really giving Ty a lot of grace.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I want Ty, like, if there is another chapter, to really, really work on this thing that she does that she doesn't seem to be aware of. Like, at the
Yeah.
end of the day, you are trying to avoid abandonment. And
Mhm.
so you're afraid to lean in, and then when it meets you there, right? Like you want it, and then you're like, oh my God, wait a minute. This is uncomfortable, this is too much. So then you start to back up, right?
Mhm.
Like the what is it called? The anxious avoidant attachment style.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
Ty
Yeah.
has. Yeah, she wants it,
Mm.
but then when it comes to her, she gets anxious and fearful about it, and then she pushes it
Mhm.
away. And then as it's
Yeah.
Mhm.
starting to meet her and say, "Well, I'm just gonna go ahead and back up," now she has like
Mhm.
these frantic efforts to like jump back in and show like, "No, no, 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 babe! Like I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. Like we can actually work it out." And so yeah,
Mhm.
Ty still does definitely have a lot of character development. Those are
Development.
character flaws, like that are
Mhm.
deeply rooted in Ty and her trauma.
Yeah.
And I want to so badly remind Ty, like, your family did not leave you. You left them. Like, you are the one who always leaves, right? Like, you
Mhm.
are the non commitment in these situations.
Mhm.
You're the one saying, like,
Yeah.
these women are annoying and, like, girl, get out my bed, right? Like, you are the one displaying the behaviors that show, like, I actually
Mhm.
don't want you around. And
Yeah.
so
Well,
she
she
has to take accountability. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, she pushes people away before they can leave. This is like well, she did it with her
Right,
family, right? She left, she
right,
never came out, like well, I guess she did mention that they were homophobic, right? So I guess she never it was the assumption that, okay, well, if I tell them this, they're not gonna love me anymore, but she will leave before someone has a chance to kind of hurt her. And the same thing when she was supposed to meet Eva's mom, right? Like, oh, she's a psychologist, she's gonna
Mm.
be thinking all these things about me. So she
mhm,
bolted before she even had a chance to meet Eva's mom, right? So
right,
that is wired quite deeply in her and will take some time
Yeah,
to
definitely.
unwire.
what both of y'all said is like that y'all just that was great, both of y'all. Like I was like this psychologist perspective. And I love Victoria how you explain the anxious avoidant because I never know. I'm like, how does a anxious and avoidant live in the same person? Because I understand anxious attachment, I understand avoidant attachment, but that was the perfect example. Ty is both. Like
Mhm.
she's when someone leans in, she's like, eh. When someone pulls away, she's anxious. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. And I'm
Yeah.
like, hey,
Yeah.
because
You see
like
it with the white girl, right? Like all of a sudden, the white girl was the one that you were okay with chasing because she got up out of your bed.
Right.
And that's not something
Mhm.
she was used to.
Mhm.
She's used to calling the shots and saying when or
Mhm.
Mhm.
not, like we can lean into this with more emotions. So now
Yeah.
all of a sudden the white woman is a great suitor and you can figure, try and work on something with her because she got up and left you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Perfect. Y'all gave me a little lesson today. That was nice. That was nice. No, I'm so serious because especially that avoidant anxious attack avoidant, because I'm like, I didn't even understand that before you broke that down. But I do think that like ultimately, like Eva praying for you, girl. That character is
Yeah.
not about to have a smooth sailing, journey with Ty because Ty did
Yeah.
just lie the day before.
Right.
So it's like, I if they I like where they're gonna go because she doesn't seem like someone who's not gonna hold Ty's feet to the fire. And the
Right.
one thing I do think about her character, I've been saying this the whole time, is that like she's had the boundaries that like a lot of us as women should be having, except with that
Yeah.
last part right there. They had to wrap the story up and give us, like a little
Right,
happy
right,
ending
right.
or whatever. But I think that she sometimes you have to be that boundary and it the situation can reshape around you, but if you don't allow yourself to be firm in what you feel
Mhm.
and your standards, then you gave way to foolishness, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so I
Yeah.
think she was a good lesson to that being like for us as women to make sure that we're standing firm in our standards. And sometimes that's the alchemy of the situation. It moves the situation and makes the situation that we want and that we desire to come to us because we are holding firm that like, no, you can't just talk to me like this. No, you can't just do this. You can't just do that, Ty. And Ty, because she wants her and she's invested in this enough and cares about her enough, is willing to shift and show up and become the person that Eva needs. And Eva
Yeah.
is almost being the alchemist and creating that because she's not taking Ty's shit. So
Right.
I love that lesson because I think that
Yeah.
sometimes we think if we give in, if we, just have understanding or whatever, or we forgive, that they'll act right. And it's like sometimes you just have to hold firm, and that
Mhm.
costs
Yeah.
action.
And it's a good reminder of what a boundary actually is, right?
Yeah.
Like a boundary is clear, consistent, and concise. Okay?
Mhm.
Clear, consistent, and concise. And so if you don't have those three things, excuse me, showing up when you state a boundary, it is not established, right? Like it
Yeah.
is permeable. It's movable. It's nothing. It's what did you say?
Mhm.
House of cards built with nothing. We can blow it.
Yeah, nothing will fall down.
Something will fall down. And so
Yeah,
Eva and Portia at the end,
at their
yeah, they
boundaries.
had good
Yeah.
boundaries. It was backed up with action, right? Like
Yeah.
if you do this to me, these are the consequences.
Yeah.
Yeah. Portia, she gave a great example of, enforcing a boundary. It's not just saying, I deserve love. It's then following up and saying, I gots to go because it's not here. And I think a lot
Mhm,
of times people will say the thing like, I deserve better than this. And then the next day,
mhm.
like we
Right.
still there. I'm gonna say we because I've done that, right? Like we still there. So it's like saying I deserve this and then being like, all right, this ain't it. I gots to
Mhm.
go. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's this boundary coach. She's called. Her name is Haley McGee, and she has this thing about this difference between requests and boundaries. And she's like, requests are, it requires the other person to do something. A boundary
Mhm.
is wholly like dependent on you, and it's your
Mhm.
action. So a request is like, please don't talk to me that way. But if you say, if you're like, a boundary is, I'm not continuing this conversation. You're cursing at me. Bye, like that. Or like you can proceed
Mhm.
a boundary with a request, but
Right.
a request is the asking of the behavior, and then the boundary is the you leaving,
Mhm.
stepping away. You say, my relation, I don't tolerate cheating, or I don't tolerate lying, or whatever, and then they lie to you. Your boundary is leaving, it's stepping
Yeah.
away. You
Yeah.
do it
Yeah.
because you say, like, you can have a request first, it's nice so you can know, put on notice, but
Yeah.
then after they violate your boundary only requires you and your action
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we need to normalize not being afraid to establish boundaries, right? Like
Mhm.
I think people think boundaries means that like someone can no longer be in your life, but a boundary is to keep people in your life. It's
Yeah.
showing how we can actually work together in a partnership, a friendship, a relationship, co-workers, whatever, right? It says these are the requirements to remain in this space
Yeah.
together, you
Mhm,
and I. This is a benefit for both of us.
mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and so if we look at it like that and not either you did a lot of people look at boundaries as like ultimatums, like it's either
Yeah,
this or that. And it doesn't mean that. It's to keep the person in your life. And that's something that definitely should be normalized more for individuals, especially in romantic relationships.
yeah.
Yeah.
And one more thing I was gonna say about Ian and Portia was the idea that Ian was just staying with Portia to prove
Mhm.
himself as like a man who can
Nerd,
stick
yeah.
and stay with the decision instead of waxing and weaning from women. And so I thought that was a really nice scene in a way for Portia to be like, no, like I get it, but I deserve to have someone who's all in
Yeah.
for
It's
me,
all there.
and
Yeah.
you're all in for Camille, right? The circumstances just didn't line up, and so I don't want to be the experiment for you to say you're a good man, and
Yeah.
you stick to your word.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I felt that when Camille came to him and said that she was pregnant, I felt like, "Okay, Ian, why are you going forth with Portia?" But I felt like he was doing this, he was like, I'm not about to leave another woman for you," right?
Yeah.
But I'm like, like, I feel like that's an interesting way to look at it, more so, how do you truly feel? If you feel like you wanna try to make it work with her, make it work with her and let this person go before they become more invested.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Definitely
Yeah.
was dealing with that sense of duty, but it falls in line with his character, you know
It
what I mean?
does.
Like, he's a good guy, but, like, a little sometimes pointed in the wrong direction. And just,
Mhm.
like, needs somebody to twist him, be like, "This way, go that way."
Right.
But the other thing that made me think of is, like, this is why it's important to talk to who you with about their last relationship and why things didn't work out. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes people don't wanna talk about stuff like that, or people don't wanna, it's in the past, whatever. It's like, no, it's directly relevant. Why did you leave? Why did you and Camille didn't work out?
Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
the honest answer is she wanted to have kids. She didn't want to have kids, and I did. Because when that baby popped up, Portia would have been on notice, like, okay,
Right.
so
Oh,
we discussed
yeah,
that, y'all broke up because of this. How does that change it? Because
yeah,
it kind of feels like, do you still have, does this resolve it? Like that, it creates a new conversation when you are aware of information about what happened with the last relationship.
mhm,
Yeah, I was like, Portia.
yeah,
I would have
Yeah.
loved to see more conversations between them, but I was happy that we got some this episode, but
yeah.
show us they was hiding it.
So, now that we're coming to a closing, what did you all think on the finale?
I thought it was well done for like the 6 episodes they had, and all that. I feel like it was well done. They did spend a little too long in that Dream Girls. What was it? The girls trip musical scene. I was like, first of all, not 5 whole minutes on
I
this
agree,
song,
that was we didn't
singing
need
this
to
song.
hear that whole song. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
like, we
I
need
said
to
they
see.
wanted to hear Shaniqua Shonda sing. That's what that was.
And she has
Right,
lovely voice.
right.
That was nice. But
Yeah,
I'm like, they could have had the song, but a montage even of like the girls' friendships. Like, we could have
yeah,
seen that, wrap that up, you know what I
Right.
mean?
yeah.
Because I was like, this is a whole 5 minutes. Like we had the show, shoot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I think they did a great job of like really bringing this like the whole entire show Harlem to a close in only like 6 episodes. That to me was impressive. And I was kind of like, ugh, not looking forward to these last 2 episodes because I was like, really, why are y'all only giving us 3 seasons? And on top of that, only 6 episodes in the last season. But they really wrapped it up quite well, brought the storylines to an end. So I feel like they did a good job there and I was surprised by it. I don't know if you all ever watched Sex in the City. But I felt like this was, like, the kind of, like, black girl, like, modern day version of, like, Sex and the City. I hate that we did not get longer. Like, 3 seasons was just way too short. They could have, like, went seasons on seasons on seasons with this show. I thought they did a great job of weaving in, like, black, like, female friendships and how beautiful and, like, supportive they can be. They showed things like, mother-daughter relationships, like the Black mother, and I thought that especially Angie's mom, it was a beautiful, relationship to watch on scene. They weaved in the relationship struggles that Black women go through. I wish it had been a little bit more fairy tale, but nevertheless, I guess we got Camille and Ian. Um, but yeah, so I enjoyed the season as a whole. I feel like it was a good representation.
It was. There I think what is so good about these types of shows is they give us the black perspective for day-to-day life. Which is why we need more episodes, Why can't we continue to portray what life looks like for us on
Yeah.
screen? And so it's unfortunate, but overall, like just the show as a whole in this season. Beautiful show. I was so emotional watching it.
Yeah.
And just knowing that it was coming to an end, I think had like some sense of just like, oh man, like, oh, why we can't keep going. So yeah, well done to the writers and to the actresses and actors and producers. You guys did an excellent job.
Are there any funny or cute moments that you all want to comment on from these last couple of episodes?
Yes, they had the Burberry baby shower shirt in there, which was like a viral thing, at least on TikTok for a good little bit. about how black men show up to baby showers in the Burberry shirt. And Auntie Deb, she mentioned it when
He
she was
did.
like, "You over there looking silly in that Burberry shirt," or whatever she said. So yeah, I do like that they had him show up in that T-shirt.
Yeah.
Again, another just like amazing cultural reference, hands down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he was cute as a whole. Like Ian was like the coming in with the baby bag. Like
Oh,
he did a lot of
yeah.
extra dad moments, but it was cute. It was like
It was
he's really
cute.
here. But the minivan, I didn't. I was like, I don't think a black man would have, been
Probably
here
a
for a minute.
SUV.
So
They went on for
excited for
SUV.
the minivan.
Yeah, I couldn't
Yeah.
see the minivan, but it was like, okay, all right. I thought it was funny when Camille was in the mirror getting ready for the baby shower, and she was like, "But you a mother, Camille. You can't wear this." Like, I thought that was cute. So they had some funny little cultural references
Yeah.
in there. I think I can't think of anything else that I saw that was like a cultural reference, but those were really cute. I thought they were
Yeah.
Yeah. They were. Do you all have any last words as we're coming to a close?
Love you, Harlem.
Yeah. Oh, and
Oh,
that
and
baby was like 5 months old. Like, I was like, "Why they pick a big baby?" That baby was big. I
I
was like,
know. When they showed, I
A
was like, "This
full
is not even a
face.
newborn. Come
grab
on now."
grab. I'm like, that baby was
Yeah.
big. But,
And shout out to the group chat though, right? Like the
I
group chat has been fun.
know. It's
Yeah.
been fun. Yeah, like, people have loved the, like, Harlem one. Like, we trying to get some folks in The Bachelor, but the Harlem one has really been jumping, and so we
Mhm.
appreciate y'all who came in, on such short notice and just, jumped into the chat,
Yeah.
so
And if you aren't in that one, please know that we have others that are going. The Bachelor, we're watching
Love
that
is
right now.
Blind.
Yes, and Love is Blind is coming
Love
what
is
next
Blind
week?
is
Yeah,
coming.
I'm ready for that one. So that one we just have to let people know we doing Love is Blind because we really ain't posting no Love is Blind stuff. All right, ladies, the
We'll
last
catch us
time.
on the next
Yeah.
episode.
And this is a wrap on Harlem.